When you call something good, are you describing what it is or what it's for? Could goodness itself be less about structure and more about purpose? Let's consider. Hello philosophers, I'm Chico. Welcome to the Philosopher Channel summary of the Summa Theologica. We are in question 5, article 4, whether goodness has the aspect of a final cause. In article 1, we asked whether being and goodness were actually different things. Aquinas answered no. They are actually the same in reality. They differ only in concept. Being refers to what a thing is. Goodness adds to that the idea of desirability. A thing is good insofar as it is desirable. In Article 2, we asked whether goodness is prior to being in concept. Again, Aquinas answered no. Being is prior in concept to goodness, because a thing must first be before it can be desirable. Then in the last article, we asked if every single being is good, and Aquinas says yes. Since every being has some form, and form is the basis of perfection, and perfection is the basis of desirability, every being is good to some degree. Now in Article 4, Aquinas asks a new question. Having established what goodness is and that every being has it, he asks, what kind of a cause is goodness? Specifically, does it have the aspect of a final cause? To understand this, we need to know Aristotle's 4 causes. And again, I've already done a video on this. You can check that out, but I'll go over them really quickly for you. Aristotle identified 4 ways of describing why a thing is the way that it is. The material cause is what something is made of. So for a bronze statue, that would be bronze. The formal cause is the form or pattern of the thing. For the statue, you could kind of think the shape of the statue. There's a lot more to it than that. It's a lot more complicated than that. But for right now, that's going to be sufficient. For an efficient cause, that is what brings a thing into being. In the statue's case, that would be a sculptor. And the final cause is the purpose or end for which the thing exists. So in the statue's case, maybe it was to honor a fallen hero. So Aquinas is asking, what kind of a cause is goodness amongst those 4 causes? Specifically, is goodness the end or purpose? And he's going to say, yes, it is. First, he cites Aristotle's Physics, Book 2. That is considered to be the end and the good of other things, for the sake of which something is. The good is what things aim at, and what things aim at is their end. Therefore, goodness has the aspect of a final cause. In the argument, he says that goodness is that which all things desire. But don't get confused here. By desire, we don't mean a conscious wanting. Here, desire means just a natural tendency or inclination. So a plant desires sunlight, in the sense that everything in a plant goes towards the sunlight. Or a stone desires the ground insofar as stones fall to the ground. Again, it's not like a stone is sitting there like, oh, I really wish I could be on the ground right now. That's not the kind of desire we're talking about. Everything in nature tends towards its own perfection, by which we mean completion, and that perfection is its good. Then 2, this has the aspect of an end. 3, so goodness implies the aspect of an end. By end here, we mean like a goal. But he also has an important qualification here. Even though goodness has the primary aspect of a final cause, it presupposes the idea of an efficient cause and a formal cause. Here's why. First, what is first in causing is last in the thing caused. This is a fundamental principle of Aquinas' metaphysics. Think of building a house. The purpose comes first in the mind of the builder. It's what motivates everything. But in the house itself, the purpose actually comes last. For example, if the purpose of building the house in the mind of the builder was for providing shelter, well, providing shelter is actually what the house does last. It's not until you've laid the foundation, raised the walls, put the roof on, all that kind of stuff, that you actually provide shelter. Aquinas illustrates this idea with fire. In the order of causing, what fire does to other things, fire first heats the material before it reproduces the form of fire in the material. But in the fire itself, the heat follows from its substantial form. So the form of the fire is ontologically prior to the heat, even though the heat is what is produced first in other things. So what is first in the cause, the form, is last in the effect. The form of the fire is the last thing to appear in the heated material. Okay, 2, in causing, goodness and the end come first, both of which move the agent to act. Secondly, the action of the agent moving to the form. Thirdly comes the form. So there are 3 steps in causation. First, the end or the good comes first, right? That's like the idea of what to do in the mind of the builder. It's what motivates the agent. The agent says, I have this goal. This is what I'm going to build this house for. Second, you have the actual action of the builder. He lays the bricks, fits the beams, This is the efficient cause of the operation. Third, the form appears, the form of the house. It's structured in the right way. It becomes the kind of a thing it is, a house. So in the order of causing, you have final cause first, right? That's the goal. Efficient cause next, that's the actual action. And formal cause last. That's the house as structured. And then 3, hence, in that which is caused, the opposite should take place. So there should be first the form by which it is a being. Thinking from the house's perspective, first the house gets formed into the way that it is, right? That's where it first comes into existence. Secondly, we consider in its effective power, whereby it is perfect in being. So once a thing has form, we next consider its powers or capabilities. Think about a dog. A dog needs to have the form of a dog, right? It needs to be a dog first. And then we can start talking about the kinds of things that a dog can do. Bark, bite, those kinds of things. Thirdly, there follows the formality of goodness, which is the basic principle of its perfection. So only after the thing gets its form and then has its effective powers, only then can we arrive at its goodness. Goodness comes last in the thing itself because goodness is about its end. So the goal is first in the mind of the builder, but it's last in the actual built thing. This is why Aquinas says that goodness or the final cause presupposes the formal and the efficient causes. Okay, now let's look at some objections. Objection 1 from Pseudo-Dionysius. Goodness is praised as beauty, meaning that when we praise something as good, we are also praising it as beautiful. Beauty and goodness seem to go together. Remember, Pseudo-Dionysius, by the way, was a guy that everybody thought was Dionysius, really wasn't. 2, but beauty has the aspect of a formal cause. Beauty is about the form, shape, proportion, harmony, pattern. A beautiful face has well-proportioned features. A beautiful melody has a harmonious structure. 3, therefore goodness has the aspect of a formal cause. Okay, Aquinas gets deep on this reply. First, he says that beauty and goodness are based on the same thing, namely the form. So he concedes the objection's main insight. A thing is good because of its form. The form is what gives it its perfection, and a thing is beautiful because of its form. A form is what gives it its proportion and harmony. 2, so goodness is praised as beauty. 3, so goodness and beauty in a thing are identical fundamentally. 4, goodness is what all things desire. And this just follows from Article 1. 5, so goodness properly relates to the appetite. The appetite in a thing is its capacity for desiring or tending towards something. 6, the appetite is a kind of movement toward the thing. The appetite is not static contemplation. It's a movement, a striving, a reaching out towards something. When you desire food, you're moved towards the food. The appetite is dynamic. 7, so goodness has the aspect of an end. Since the appetite moves you towards a thing, and what the appetite moves you towards, well, that's just what we call the end, then goodness has the nature of a final cause. 8, beautiful things are things which please when seen. And here he doesn't mean just vision. He means any cognitive apprehension. This is a very quoted passage on aesthetics, on what is beauty. 9, the senses delight in things duly proportioned, as in what is after their own kind. So why do beautiful things please when perceived? Because the senses delight in proportion and harmony. A face with balanced features, a chord with harmonious intervals, a proof with elegant structure. All of these exhibit due proportion. 10, so beauty consists in due proportion. 11, even sense is a sort of reason, just as is every cognitive faculty. So sense perception is not merely a passive faculty. It's not merely the reception of something. It involves a kind of a judgment, a discrimination of form. When you see a beautiful painting, your eyes are doing something rational in a broad sense. They're apprehending form and proportion. And every cognitive faculty, from the lowest sense to the highest intellect, involves the apprehension of a form. 12, so beauty relates to the cognitive faculty. 13, knowledge is by assimilation. Now, this is an important aspect of Aristotelian hylomorphic epistemology, and that is the knower knows the thing known by becoming the thing known in a way, informally, right? So you receive the form of the thing in your form, formally only, not materially. Otherwise, when you see, let's say, a bus, your brain would turn into a bus. That's not what we're saying. We're saying the form of the bus is received into your form, which is your mind or your soul. So the knower assimilates the form of the known. 14, similarity relates to form. Likeness between things is when they share the same form. And so you share the form of the bus, again, in your form, which is your mind. I don't know why I picked a bus, but that's definitely not a beautiful thing. but we could say like the form of the painting, right? That form of the painting is in your mind, not materially, right? It's not like you have a material painting stuck in your brain, but as a form. 15. So beauty properly belongs to the nature of a formal cause. So beauty relates to cognition. Cognition works by assimilation. Assimilation involves similarity in form. So beauty is fundamentally about form. Beauty belongs to formal causality, goodness to final causality. So the objection was right that beauty has to do with form, but wrong about goodness being with form. They share the same foundation, which is the form, but they relate to different faculties, and therefore to different kinds of causality. Objection 2. Again, pseudo-Dionysius. Goodness is that whereby all things subsist and are. Dionysius is basically saying everything owes their existence to the good, right? The capital G good, which is God. 2. So goodness is self-diffusive. This is very Neoplatonic. The good is diffusive of itself. Goodness naturally spreads, communicates, and shares itself. The sun radiates light. A teacher shares knowledge. A generous person gives gifts. And the good pours itself out. 3, to be self-giving is the aspect of the efficient cause. The efficient cause, remember, is what actively produces a result. Therefore, goodness has the aspect of an efficient cause. His reply is simple. Goodness is described as self-diffusive in the sense that an end is said to move. So, yes, goodness is self-diffusive, but it's not the diffusion of an efficient cause. It's the diffusion of a final cause, which draws things towards it. The effective cause does the pushing, right? It actually pushes the action into motion. The final cause is what draws things as being a goal. So, different kind of self-diffusiveness. Objection 3, here he quotes Augustine. We exist because God is good. 2, we owe our existence to God as the efficient cause, right? God caused us by actually producing the action. 3, so goodness implies an efficient cause. Okay, his response. It is by our will that we employ whatever powers we have. The will is the master faculty here. You might have a brilliant intellect, but whether you use that for good or for ill, all depends on your will. You might have great strength, but what you do, again, is a matter of your willing. The will is what directs all other powers to their objects. 2, so he who has a will is said to be good, so far as he has a good will. We call a person good not because they're super talented or super powerful. A brilliant criminal is not a good person. Goodness is fundamentally a matter of having a good will. 3, so a man is said to be good, not by his good understanding, but by his will. This just reinforces point 2. 4, the will relates to the end as its proper object. The will's proper object is the good, and the good is the end. The will doesn't aim at efficient production or form. It aims at the end, the goal. 3, so the saying, we exist because God is good, has reference to final cause. It is the case that God is the efficient cause of us all, but his goodness is the final cause. It's the reason why he made things. God created things not by his goodness acting as an efficient cause, but because his goodness is the end, for the sake of which he willed to create. His goodness moved his will, and his will is what directed his power to create. Goodness remains a final cause even in the act of creation. So, now we know that goodness has the aspect of a final cause, but what does goodness actually consist of? What are its ingredients? In Article 5, Aquinas asked the question whether the essence of goodness consists in mode, species, and order. These 3 terms come from Augustine, and Aquinas will argue that every good thing has a proper measure, a definite form, and an ordering towards its end. It's a surprisingly practical framework that applies from everything from a good meal to a good life. So join me next time as we break it down. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and hit the notification bell. I'll see you in Article 5. Adios.